Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are waking up and feeling great out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great week out there so far. We got a lot of weather to talk about this morning as we have a significant severe weather event that will unfold later on this afternoon into the overnight hours. Now, we have one heck of a line of storms surging through Oklahoma and Kansas right at this second, but this really isn't even the main show. This is sort of the appetizer, if you will, but already a lot of active weather ongoing right now in these areas that will get more active weather later on today into tonight. So we're going to get very detailed on today's event. We'll break it down state by state. There'll be timestamps littered throughout the video for you guys to take advantage of to jump ahead the sections of the video that you'll want to listen to. If you live in Oklahoma and you just want to hear about Oklahoma, there'll be a timestamp up for that, Kansas, etc. So after we get done talking about today's event and today's weather, and we'll break down everywhere else too, we'll have a little segment for the Mid-Atlantic, which could see some nasty weather also. Today we'll break down tomorrow's event and then speak a little bit on Thursday's event also. But just a quick reminder, I'm going on vacation tomorrow morning. So, we will kind of break the routine of doing these morning videos. I'll try to do posts in the community tabs and things like that to do my part to keep you guys updated. But as far as these long, detailed updates in video format, I won't have it for you. But there's a lot of other great YouTubers out there. I always am going to recommend one of my good friends, Gerald, a GM Weather. Hit him up. He might drop his videos a little bit later than I typically do, but he'll provide the same awesome detailed information. So with that being said, you guys, if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. And stay tuned for the end of the video if you want to join us with a Bible devotion. So let's get rocking and rolling. So current conditions right now, the main show is ongoing right now across areas of Kansas and Oklahoma. We have a line of storms surging more south than anything, and we got some severe thunderstorms out here in northeast Colorado, a lot of rain up here in Nebraska, and some moisture across the central Rockies. And what's going on is this ridge is breaking down. So the flow has shifted south, and you can see how it's still riding on top of a ridge, still flexing across areas of the southwest. And it kind of rides on top and then it surges back down dramatically, kind of like a roller coaster, right? And then we still got just areas of energy, upper energy, a short wave across the eastern U.S. We're waking up to a lot of moisture across some areas of the western deep south, Mississippi, Louisiana. And we got some energy being thrown up into eastern Canada right now too. And just some scattered showers about across areas of the eastern U.S. So this is current conditions. Watches, warnings, advisories. We got a ton of flood watches. The entire state of West Virginia has a flood watch, and then areas of states surrounding West Virginia, PA, Ohio, Kentucky, Virginia, areas of North Carolina. You guys have flood watches in those green areas. And then we got the ongoing severe thunderstorm watches, which probably have expired at this point across Nebraska. But we got red flag warnings across the four corner states, some heat advisories in the orange. And so moving forward here, the excessive rainfall outlook, and I'm going to include the Storm Prediction Center outlook on the full breakdown of the severe weather threat. So that's why if you're a regular on the channel and you're wondering, you're showing us the excessive rainfall outlook before the Storm Prediction Center outlook. That's why I'm doing it. But the flooding threat cannot be ignored today. I know that all eyes and all ears will be on the severe weather threat. But the flooding threat will be quite serious also, a bimodal moderate risk. So if you live in these red areas up here in PA, sections of northern West Virginia, and then areas of Kansas, you have a moderate risk of flash flooding, which means you have at least a 40% risk of flash flooding occurring in these areas within 25 miles of any given location. In these yellow regions, that's a 15% risk. So take that flooding threat serious, and as we do a state-by-state breakdown, hopefully I don't forget doing it on some of these states, I will show you how much rainfall could happen over the next 36 hours and with the state-by-state breakdown. Brief update on the tropics, very brief, nothing to speak on. It's a pretty quiet start to hurricane season. I mean, it's still very early though too, so nothing to speak on there. So let's go on and break down the Storm Prediction Center outlook. Now, I'm showing you a broad look at things first. Moderate risk level 4 out of 5 is obviously the big thing with today. Enhanced risk level 3 out of 5 surrounding that. So we did get an upgrade to another category across areas of Kansas. But I do want to show you this. There is a marginal risk across areas of the Mid-Atlantic, and we'll speak on that too, level 1 out of 5. But a large area of the country is in the light green at least, which means you just have a general risk of thunderstorms. But let's go on and break down this right here, get more detailed on the Central Plains. So a zoomed in look at these areas. Now, I know some of these regions are cut off up in Iowa, Wyoming, and even sections of Nebraska. I do apologize, but that's why I showed you the broad look first. So if I missed anybody in these graphics, you saw it in the last. But moderate risk up, Great Bend, Garden City, Dodge City, Pratt, Hutchinson, level 4 out of 5 risk of severe weather. And I expect some adjustments with this, especially the tornado outlook, which I'll show you here in a second. Enhanced risk gets all the way into areas of Colorado and gets almost all the way to Kansas City. And it does extend into the northern areas of Oklahoma. And I know it doesn't show towns and cities in Oklahoma on this graphic, but just to avoid pulling up a million more tabs than what I already do, I just hope you guys know where you are in the state of Oklahoma. But listen, this severe weather threat, the enhanced risk, could get pulled down, especially further in northeast Oklahoma. But the severe weather threat in the northern areas of the state is quite serious. And I'll break that down when I give you a state-by-state breakdown. But level 3 out of 5 risk, Topeka, even down to almost Joplin, Manhattan, Hayes, Colby, Goodland. And then you got the level 2 out of 5 risk, which is in the yellow. So take that serious too. And this does extend a little bit into Wyoming, also includes all of eastern Colorado and gets all the way up into Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Ames. You guys, level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. And there is the entire state of Nebraska at least has a risk of severe weather today. Some areas in the slight, some in the marginal. So what's driving this? The damaging wind threat by far is the biggest threat for today. In that pink area, that is a 45% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles in any given location. The red area is a 30% risk of that, the yellow 15. Now, you see the black outline region, but the black dash is going in between. That is a 10% risk of significant severe winds, which are winds exceeding 70, 75, 80, 85 miles per hour. And what's going to happen here, and I'm going to show you this here in a second, with the state-by-state breakdown, we're going to have just a bowing out line of storms that could produce hurricane-force winds in these areas. So, the wind threat is really driving this moderate risk upgrade in this area. Dodge City, Pratt, Wichita, Hutchinson, Great Bend, Garden City. But areas outside this too. If you live in the northern counties of Oklahoma, big threat. The hail threat with this is driving at least that enhanced risk upgrade. But that red area, a 30% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. The yellow area, I think I said red area, 30%. Yellow, 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. But once again, you live in the black outline region with the black dashes going in between it. That is a hatch risk. That is a 10% risk of significant sized hail. So, giant hail is possible with this setup today. Now, the tornado outlook. Listen. I think yesterday was a great example of this. I think we only had like a 2% risk of a tornado in Nebraska yesterday. My buddy Bryce and his girlfriend Paige, some of you guys that follow my channel, follow their channel. They're an up and coming, going to be big one day, a storm chasing couple. And they ended up, I think they ended up having to stay in Nebraska because of car issues, truck issues, and it ended up working out. They ended up getting one of the best looking tornadoes that we've seen so far this storm season in Nebraska, and a very low end tornado risk day. I mean, this thing was a beefy looking stovepipe, something photogenic like you see out of the Wizard of Oz. And that's what ended up happening in Nebraska yesterday. So, if you don't know which one I'm talking about, check out Paige's storm chasing YouTube. You just probably type in like Paige storm chasing, and it. Anyways, let's not get too far off track. But I'm saying that to say this. There is a 5% risk of a tornado in this area today in the brown. All right, 2% risk in the green. Do not ignore either one of these areas. I think there's a real possibility we'll get a bump up to a 10% risk of a tornado, which show up in yellow. Could be a hatch risk, which means it would be a 10% risk of an EF2 or a higher tornado. But right now, as of 6:51 a.m. Eastern Time, 5:51 you guys' time out here, it's a 5% risk of a tornado in that brown area, but take that serious. So let's go on and break it down. Kansas is first because you guys are the highlighted state for today. 8 a.m. Okay, we're going to look at the herd model like we always do. And remember, before I get really deep into this, remember all model guidance is not going to be perfect. But it's handling the morning storms very well. This is pretty much where they are. They're starting to sink into Oklahoma. Of course, this is a couple hours in advance, so it might be a little bit off with timing, but let's just keep this going. So we start to get to about midday. We still got storms just hanging out around here in southeast Kansas. A little bit of convection trying to get going here in the northwestern areas of the state. And then we take it to about 4 p.m. The storms this morning is going to leave what we call kind of an outflow, like a boundary. And more storms could fire along that boundary. Hutchinson, Wichita, over to Missouri also, which we'll break down here in a second. But storms could just be hanging around this area most of the day. Okay, and then we start to get to about 7 p.m. This is where we could begin to get some supercells. You see these storms down here near Hutchinson, Wichita, with the circle areas coming off some of these cells, like in the purples and whites here. Those are indicating very strong, intense updrafts. We could get some tornadoes off these. That's why I do think we could get a bump up to a 10% risk in this area. Now, we keep going. The main show begins to develop. And listen, even as we get into 9 p.m., the HRR model is very aggressive with a semi-discrete supercell setup here. Hutchinson, Wichita, anybody in between, please. This looks like Tornado Central here. But a line of storms, a cluster of storms, I might add, begins to develop here in southwest Kansas. And these will have the capability of producing violent winds, very strong wind gusts. Hurricane force wind gusts. And you still got some supercells out ahead of this. We got some stronger cells up here near Manhattan, Topeka too. This is 11 p.m. And then we start to get to about 1 a.m. And these storms are slamming Hutchinson after already dealing with some storms earlier this afternoon. Wichita, these storms are sinking into Oklahoma, which we'll break down here in a second. And then these will continue after midnight to cruise across southeastern and eastern areas of Kansas. Could hit, Kansas City. You'll be on the northern end of this. But this looks like just one heck of a line of storms. But initially this afternoon to this evening, we could get some supercells that could produce some tornadoes in south central Kansas. A real possibility of this. So, if we do pull this up and look at this, and I'm doing some of this on the fly just to avoid pulling up a million timestamps for you guys. We look at the updraft velocity swath. This is just the morning stuff, right? And then we get into the late evening stuff. And just look at this in northern Oklahoma, Kansas, and just say, hey, we're going to have some intense thunderstorms, intense updrafts. And, if we look at how much wind, what this particular model is showing as far as predicted wind gusts, we have some pockets of over 80, 85 mile per hour wind gusts with this. But these colors right here are like 65, 70 miles per hour. Very strong wind gusts. And this might be underdoing it some. Typically, the HRR model overdoes it. So let's back it up here and let's look at... All right, cool. It worked out. The backspace button worked out. Let's look at how much rainfall could happen in Kansas. Let's pull this up. Look at the 46-hour deal here. This is between now and 7 p.m. tomorrow. A lot of rain could fall. A lot of rain's falling right now, but if you live in those red areas there, that's where over 2 inches of rain could happen. Start to get into this yellow, orange region. That is where over 4 inches of rain could fall. But central to eastern Kansas are good for about 1 to 3 inches of rain at least. So a lot of rain. It's been a rainy spring and early summer for you folks. Now, let's drop this down into Oklahoma. Okay, and we're actually going to start this. Let's back it up a little bit. We're a little bit too far ahead. We're going to start around 2 p.m. this afternoon. Not a whole lot going on. Could get some isolated thunderstorm activity up here in the northern, northeastern areas of the state. And then we start to get to 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Some storms start to affect you guys up in Guyman, Woodward area. You guys could begin to get hit later this evening. And I want to say this because I got a loyal follower. They are awesome. Woodward, and he's going to end up messaging me about this. It's funny. He says that some people say Woodard, and then some people say Woodward. So I would love to know everybody's opinion on that, which is an area right here in Oklahoma. But it does have two W's in it, so naturally you're going to say Woodward. But I think some people just say Woodard. But anyways, enough of all that. There's a little side quest there for you. But we start to get to 11 midnight, and these storms could begin to really impact the northwestern area of the state. But you see just these clusters of storms up here, this is where they'll be the most intense, where you have the enhanced risk. But this is why I do think the enhanced risk could extend further south. The extension south of these storms looks pretty evident, right? This is 1 a.m. after midnight tonight, so I mean, it's going to be a loud night. And this looks like intense thunderstorm action through this region. And you continue to move forward here. You get to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And listen, if you're in the northern areas of Oklahoma, I mean, look, these can have embedded tornadoes with them too. It's going to be a loud night. I mean, it's been some loud overnight periods in Oklahoma and Kansas over the last several weeks, honestly. And then the storms move on through. Now, how much rain could happen down here? Let's pull that up for you. And, most of the heavier rain is going to be confined to the northern, northeastern areas of the state. Far northeastern areas could get 1 to 2 inches of rain. All right. Colorado could get very rocky here. Rocky, Colorado, anyways. But could get pretty wild out here in the eastern sections of the state later on this afternoon, this evening. But you take it about midday, and look at how these storms are firing right out the front range. I mean, we could get some very large hail with these. As you know, we get some big hail producers out here in Colorado, but storms fire right out the Rockies. I mean, Longmont, Fort Collins, Denver, Castle Rock, Colorado Springs could get some hailstorms. I mean, early afternoon, right after lunchtime. And then all this action begins to grow up scale. 4 p.m., 5 p.m. shows a lot of storms. And what's interesting to me is you got this one supercell sort of drifting southeastward in this area. You see this huge circle thing coming off of this. I would watch out for a spin up, a tornado in this area of Colorado later on this afternoon. And then all this action begins to drift, and my face is kind of in the way. This is 7 p.m. Got a lot of storm action from Lemoore Point south later this evening, and then we're done with it. So it looks like an afternoon to an evening thing, not a whole lot overnight across Colorado. Now we take it up to Wyoming. Let's not ignore you folks, and we get to 1 p.m. My face is in the way again. We got a lot of storm activity in Torrington, Cheyenne, maybe Laramie. Be careful around lunchtime or just after. And then we could get additional thunderstorm development just in general in eastern Wyoming from Gillette, Casper down to Laramie. This is 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Shows some strong to severe thunderstorm activity potentially being there. 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. And kind of like Colorado, by the time you get later in the evening, things begin to relax. And then we look at the great state of Nebraska. Starting off around late morning, maybe some heavy rain sort of north of the corridor between North Platte, Kearney, Grand Island, Lincoln. And then some thunderstorms become widespread in the western areas of the state. Could have some isolated cells up here in the northern areas of Nebraska also that could pack a punch. Highest severe weather threat is definitely in the southern areas of the state, but it's going to be definitely a rainy, stormy afternoon for the western areas of the state of Nebraska. And then as we start to get to 7, 8 p.m., just a lot of storm activity across central areas of the state. I mean, the severe weather threat, probably not as high as yesterday, but it's a marginal to slight risk, level 1 to level 2 out of 5. So there's still a risk of severe weather. Ingredients are still here that supports it. So we're just going to have clusters of storms that drifts throughout the nighttime hours, even still. So rainfall between now and the next 36 hours, between now and 7 p.m., most of the state of Nebraska is going to get measurable rain. Some people can get 1 to 2 inches of rain. So moving forward here and looking at Iowa, starting off around midday, not a whole lot going on, but just after lunchtime, some isolated strong storms could begin to develop here in western areas of the state. And then we could get some action that forms in the eastern areas of the state, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, Dubuque, Davenport, Burlington. We could get some widespread thunderstorm activity this afternoon to this evening. And then we begin to get into the evening hours, and it does look like things begin to calm down somewhat. So, nothing too crazy, but, as we get to about daybreak tomorrow, we could begin to get some more downpours again. And the last state I'll kind of section off here is Missouri. And starting off around midday, some rain could move into Joplin, Springfield. And then by the time we start to get into, say, 6 p.m., some storms possible up in the northern areas of Missouri. But what about the southern areas where you have maybe a higher severe weather threat? Shows Joplin getting hit by some storms later this evening, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. But it really takes until later tonight, like after midnight, before some hefty storm activity moves in. Kansas City up to St. Joseph. But it's really after midnight. And this is when Joplin, Clinton, Kansas City, everybody in between, you got to watch and how intact this line of storms will be. It's kind of the northern edge of this intense line of storms in Kansas and Oklahoma. And how intact will this line of storms be? This is 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. It could still be packing a punch, but it does show it weakening pretty rapidly as we get into, say, daybreak tomorrow. But definitely be aware in the western areas and the southwestern areas of Missouri after midnight tonight. All right, the rest of the southeast, well, the rest of the country, speaking of the southeast first, we're going to have a big influx of tropical moisture once again across Alabama, Mississippi, southeast Louisiana, some isolated activity up here, well, over here in Georgia. Big slug of moisture developing this afternoon into Middle Tennessee, into central Kentucky. We're getting some isolated activity in North Carolina and South Carolina. Same thing with Florida. But it does look like most of the moisture will be centered across the deep south into the mid-south, into the Ohio Valley. And then with the loss of daytime heating, things will calm down. So just a very moist air mass across the southeast. This will allow for the firing of tropical shower and storm activity. So nothing totally unusual about this. But we move up into the northeast, maybe more of a higher impact severe weather day. Well, I would say a higher risk of some of these storms becoming severe. And we take it to about afternoon. This is 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And you see these cells down here in PA, Maryland, VA, West Virginia. These storms could be a little bit more on the severe side. This is this evening. Maybe even a quick spin up with some of this action is possible. But elsewhere, showers up in New England. The interior sections of the Northeast, not a huge deal, and we could have a big slug of moisture that gets pulled out of West Virginia into PA tomorrow morning. But let's just take a closer look at the D.C. corridor. Starting off this morning, quiet start, and then we get to about 4 p.m. You see that storm right there in eastern West Virginia, the Panhandle, getting close to, say, Hagerstown, Winchester. Watch out, Frederick. This is around rush hours, 4 or 5 o'clock. And we could get some of these storms that drift into the D.C., Baltimore area. More storms could fire up here near Hagerstown. This is 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. And some of this action begins to get into the Delmarva area, maybe some storms in the Tidewater. But just be mindful of these storms. There is a marginal risk in place with these. And not a huge severe weather day, but it's definitely there. And southern areas of PA, I'd watch out for a few supercells. You know, we get into 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Just be mindful of these cells right into here. State College, Altoona, hopefully I said that right, Harrisburg. These storms, they could produce a quick spin up later this evening. Very stormy afternoon, evening here for southern PA, especially when you get closer to Maryland. So, the south central U.S., we've already broke down many states in this area, but just a broad look at things. Tropical downpours in Louisiana, Mississippi. And then that big complex of storms will impact Oklahoma and Kansas, but we've already broke that down. Really elsewhere, there's not a whole lot of activity ongoing. North central U.S., shortwave is ejecting into eastern Canada. But outside the states we've already broken down, southern areas of South Dakota could get some shower and storm activity. Some showers and storms could move into northern areas of Illinois, southern Wisconsin this evening. So it could be a stormy evening for Rockford, maybe Chicago, maybe up to Milwaukee. And then later on into the overnight hours, this energy will continue to move east. So you see this spinning low pressure right over Kansas City for tomorrow morning. This will introduce severe weather across areas further to the east in some of these areas for tomorrow. But waking up to a big area of moisture here in Sioux Falls, Sioux City, starting to move into Kansas City, into Omaha and Lincoln. But, for my folks here in the UP and Michigan, you guys are pretty quiet, pretty nice weather. But out west, not a whole lot to speak on. Some flow. Maybe up there in Montana could get a shower or storm, but it's pretty quiet. There's not a whole lot to speak on out west. Eastern U.S., this is temperatures. Some hot air here, some Humid air there, pocket of cooler air in the northeast. Nice day into the upper Midwest. But the temperatures are quite warm across western Texas and then the Four Corners region. The ridge is beginning to break down, so the temperature's not as hot as the last couple of days, but still warm. Now, the severe weather threat for tomorrow, of course, has increased. We were pretty much expecting this, but a level 3 out of 5 risk of severe weather in that orange area. That's an enhanced risk. This is for tomorrow. It's for your Wednesday, stretching from southeast Missouri, very extreme sections of Kentucky, extreme western areas of Kentucky, I might add, southern areas of Illinois, right through the heart of Indiana, northwestern Ohio, into southern sections of lower Michigan. Level 3 out of 5 risk. Slight risk is huge, goes all the way up to the halfway point of lower Michigan, all the way back down to the Red River, all the way over into central areas of Kentucky, central Ohio, all the way back to almost Kansas City. So Chicago included into that. What's driving it? Pretty large tornado risk. There's a 5% risk of a tornado for Chicago, St. Louis, Toledo, into Detroit, South Bend, Kalamazoo. I mean, Indianapolis, trying to mention as many town names as possible. But there is a 2% risk of a tornado all the way up here to almost the UP and all the way down to Oklahoma. But what's driving the enhanced risk upgrade is the wind threat. Definitely enough flow shear to give an opportunity for a lot of winds to mix to the surface, but in that red area, 30% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. Just to zoom into this area for you folks. And then in the yellow area, that is a 15% risk of that. And we'll look up here, and then we'll kind of inch our way down here, showing other sections. And then the hail threat, we just have a very large 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. So, just taking a look at what the radar could potentially look like for tomorrow afternoon. And we'll start off tomorrow morning, of course. And a couple things to note: already widespread thunderstorms developing out ahead of the main severe weather risk in eastern areas of Kentucky and Tennessee, northern areas of Alabama. But the main show develops to the west of this, and this is where we're going to have just clusters of nasty storms that develops across all these states you see here. And I mean, I'm telling you guys, some of these look like semi-discrete supercells. I mean, the kinematics will be better on the northern end. Thermodynamics will always be better on the southern end. But you get a mixture of both, and that's probably where your highest tornado threat's going to be. But this is a huge area of storms cruising eastward, and they are going to pack a punch as far as whoever they hit. So just be aware of this. Even more storms forming behind it down here in Arkansas. So, I could see a couple of the categories in regards to severe weather going up. So I could see the tornado threat going from a 5 to a 10% risk inside of that 5% risk area. Are we going to get a moderate risk upgrade? I doubt it, but listen, this is a potent short wave. So it's really increasing the flow on top of a very moist air mass already in place. But this looks like some pretty nasty storms tomorrow afternoon and evening going across the states you see on your screen. I'm going to try to do a video this evening. We're going to be doing a lot of packing, but I'm going to try to finish a video to give you an update on tomorrow's severe weather threat. I'm going to try. I just don't want to guarantee it. But speaking on Thursday, we have a large slight risk that goes all the way up into the Adirondacks, includes the entire state of Vermont, sections of New Hampshire, areas of western southern New England, goes all the way through the mid-Atlantic, all the way into areas of the Carolinas. So level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather, and then another huge area, a marginal risk of severe weather up here in the upper Midwest. But all we know right here in this region is that there is a 15% risk of severe weather within 25 miles in the given location. So the active week continues. So let's create a timestamp here for our Bible devotion. And one thing I want to start doing sometimes, and I want to make this a habit, I think this is even more important, is I'm going to try to do a prayer at the end of every single video. It's not going to be, as long as the devotion, but I do want to say a quick prayer at the end of my video. So I'm going to try to make that a habit. I might forget sometimes, but this morning we are in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 58. And it says, "Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, be steadfast, immovable, always excelling in the Lord's work, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. So I wrote down a couple things as always. I said, be dedicated in serving the Lord. Put God first in everything you do. God sees it all and will most certainly see the work you are doing to serve Him. You will be rewarded in His timing for it. Even when it feels like your work that you're doing to serve the Lord is getting nowhere, it is not being wasted, because our work means something to God and it brings Him glory. So, guys, just, constantly seek out ways to do the Lord's work. Help your neighbor. I feel like this verse links to many other verses. And never stop doing the right thing, the good thing that serves the Lord. And whether that's helping your neighbor, serving at church, whatever it may be, go the extra mile to help others. We had a sermon Sunday morning, and a lot of people have heard this before, and we've had a Bible devotion on it with this channel, and faith without works is dead. So are you really setting the example of a person that is saved, a person that knows Jesus, that has Him in his heart? So I feel like what better way to do that than doing the Lord's work, spreading the gospel. Your encounters with people, whether it's at work and whether it's at the grocery store, obviously at church, a family meeting. The reality is I got people in my own family that I need to work on more. And one of them's my own father, and that, I don't think is saved. I'll be completely honest with you. So, even there's people in our own family that we can talk about the gospel to, talk about Jesus to. And of course, this is mentioning, work, but constantly challenge yourself, folks, I would say, and a lot of this is going to be getting out your comfort zone to do things that's going to serve the Lord. So if you feel just a constant nagging, a calling, to do something that is going to serve the Lord, but it's something you've never done before, it's really out your comfort zone. And I'm telling you right now, guys, I'm speaking from example here. The growth that will occur when you do that, that's the blessing most of the time, in my opinion. You are going to be blessed from the growth that occurs when you get out your comfort zone to do something that's going to serve the Lord. And listen, I'm a living and breathing example of that. So, and one thing it says in the verse, don't get tired of doing the Lord's work, doing the right thing to honor God. Because sometimes it's just going to feel like that you're putting in all this work and, you're not getting anything from it. Well, that's not the point. The point isn't for you to get anything out of it. It's to glorify God, and you will be blessed for that in His timing. In His timing. It's always in His timing, guys. So that's when the faith kicks in. So that's all I got. I'm going to do a quick prayer for us, and then we'll head on out. You guys stay safe today. But Lord, we're going to come to you this morning. We're just thankful for everything that you've given us, all the many blessings, the things that, we just overlook every single day, like the roof above our head, a car to drive, our health. Our health is huge. But Lord, we just ask that you put things and opportunities in our life to serve you. And Lord, more importantly, just help us to get out of our comfort zone so we can serve you and increase our faith to know that what we're doing is making a difference. It's glorifying you, God. And we just are so thankful for everything that you give us every single day. We appreciate you. Lord, we just pray for the safety of people that are in the severe weather impact zone for today. Just keep them safe. We can rebuild stuff. We can put stuff back together and all that, but we can't get people's lives back. So help people to be weather aware, take it serious. We love you, God. We appreciate you. In your name we pray. Amen. You guys have a wonderful day. Stay safe out there. And once again, I'm going on vacation tomorrow morning, so I will not have a video format like this for tomorrow morning. But I could have a video this evening, and who knows? If it looks bad enough for tomorrow, I might wake up extra early just for y'all and make a video right before I leave tomorrow morning. So y'all are my family. I want to look out for you. I appreciate y'all. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you again soon.